Voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch Viksit Bharat at 2047. Voice of Youth today. Benjamin Netanyahu calls on Hamas terrorists to surrender now as Israeli tanks reach center of Khan Yunis. EU considers crackdown on Hamas finances. Philippines summoned China's ambassador as it calls aggressive actions in South China Sea a serious escalation. US calls on Beijing to refrain. And India's Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur to inaugurate first ever Khelo India Para Games in New Delhi. A platform for the youth of India to contribute ideas for the vision of Viksit Bharat or Developed India 2047 initiative will be launched by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday. The next story gives you a sneak peek into what is expected at this event.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be launching the Viksit Bharat at 2047 Voice of Youth on 11th December 2023 via video conferencing. The Prime Minister will also address the Vice Chancellors of the universities, heads of the institutes and faculty members in workshops held at Raj Bhavans across the country, which will symbolize the start of the initiative. The Prime Minister will also virtually address the youth and students through video conferencing.
What the Prime Minister is envisioning is that we should have a vision for Viksit Bharat, which should be coming out sometime end of January or so. But who are going to be the biggest drivers of Viksit Bharat? It's the youth of India, it's the students of India. And the students have to be reached, they should be mobilized, their views and their ideas sought. And I think tomorrow the Prime Minister is going to kick off a campaign to seek ideas from the youth for the vision of Viksit Bharat. It's three simple questions. How do you see India as Viksit Bharat in 2047?
Prime Minister's vision is to actively involve the youth of the country in formulation of national plans, priorities and goals of the country. Viksit Bharat at 2047 is the vision to make India a developed nation by 2047, the 100th year of its independence. The vision encompasses various aspects of development, including economic growth, social progress, environmental sustainability, and good governance, among others. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, taking to Twitter, India's Prime Minister said, and I quote him, "I have great faith in India's Yuva Shakti to make our dream of a Viksit Bharat into a reality. At 10:30 a.m. today, we'll be addressing the Viksit Bharat at 2047 Voice of Youth initiative aimed at integrating our youngsters towards building a developed India. I urge you all to join in large numbers." On the first day of the second week of the winter session, important legislative businesses have been listed for discussion in both the houses of the Indian Parliament today. Two crucial bills which got the nod of Lok Sabha, the lower house of the Parliament on December 6, will be introduced in the upper house today. These bills have proposed nomination of two Kashmiri Pandits, including a woman and one Pakistan-occupied Jammu Kashmir refugee, to the UT Legislative Assembly. In response to media queries on reports of MEA secret memo in April 2023, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs has strongly asserted that such reports are fake and completely fabricated and that there is no such memo. It said this is part of a sustained disinformation campaign against India. The outlet in question is known for propagating fake narratives peddled by Pakistani intelligence. The posts of the authors confirm this linkage. Those who amplify such fake news only do so at the cost of their own credibility. Now, celebrating 50 years of diplomatic relationship between India and Korea, the Korean embassy in New Delhi organized an event, Rang De Korea. Several youngsters attended the program to experience K-culture, K-food, K-fashion and more. The event showcased traditional Korean dance, music as well as Korean arts. Korean ambassador to India, Shang-ji Bok, spoke to DD India, highlighting the cultural connect.
We are here at the Rang De Korea event, and this event is organized on the occasion of celebrating 50 years of diplomatic relationship between India and Korea. And we are joined in by the ambassador of Korea to India. Thank you so much, sir, for talking to DD India. Yeah. This event looks a huge success because a lot of youngsters and a lot of culture is definitely going to be displayed. How do you look at the relationship?
Over the last 50 years, India and Korea have developed our bilateral relations. And now, today, we observe this great success, politically and economically. But most importantly, the people-to-people context and cultural exchanges are the most important element between our two countries. So today we have the grand finale celebration of the 50 years of the diplomatic relations between our two countries.
Both the leaderships from India as well as from Korea have posted on X congratulating about the bilateral relationship.
This year, for the 50 years of diplomatic ties and then G20 presidency of India, we focused on the high-level meetings, especially the leaders' meeting. There were two meetings held. Our two governments will continue to work very hard to improve our special strategic partnership to another high.
So one last question. You definitely see and witness the craze that youngsters have about Korean culture. What do you have to say about it?
We are very happy to see that. That's why we organize this event at this magnitude. So we are very happy to have around 3,000 people at this Ansar Plaza. And they will enjoy some Korean culture, including K-pop girl group.
So here we have the Korean ambassador speak to us on the Rang De Korea event celebrating 50 years of diplomatic relationship between India and Korea. With camera person RK, this is Meghna Dey for DD India from New Delhi.
And the United Nations COP28 Climate Summit prioritizes the phase-out of fossil fuels, with negotiations unveiling potential options. These range from agreeing on a phase-out in line with scientific recommendations to curtailing unabated fossil fuel use or even omitting any reference at all. These talks include ways to mitigate fossil fuel impact, such as carbon capture and storage, which remains unproven at scale and costly. There is a focus on addressing climate change adoption. The COP28 event, which is ongoing in Dubai, concludes on December 12th.
How do we ensure that the world can also adapt and have the means to adapt to climate change? But here, of course, it's a lot of demands from the global south. How will they be helped on adaptation? So by raising that point, there's also kind of now the invitation to Europe, and I think that's now how Europe should react, to say, okay, we understand that adaptation is a demand now, so we are doing more on adaptation, but in return we want to see more in the global stocktake on ambition, mainly on the end of fossil fuels. And that's now the play that needs to be played.
And the COP28 Climate Summit has focused on key buzzwords such as North Star and science to guide global leaders in limiting temperature rise. As leaders, including COP28 President Sultan Al-Jaber and US climate envoy John Kerry, frequently using these terms in speeches, the jargon has become widely adopted. The emphasis on science underscores the importance of climate-friendly policies and responding to scientific evidence. The summit aims to address climate change effectively, acknowledging the need for urgent action.
We can only overcome the climate crisis.
Keep the North Star of 1.5 within reach.
That it is the science that have guided the principles of our strategy as COP28 presidency.
Heard it a number of times around here, is 1.5 degrees. We've said consistently that we need to do what we need to do to follow the science. So, you know, the science requires net zero emissions.
Meet Aisa Susise, the queen of plastic in Africa, leading the charge for environmental change. Known affectionately as the Queen of Plastic in Africa, she shared her remarkable journey and a mission to empower women while addressing pressing environmental concerns in Gambia. She is the founder and chairperson of Women Initiative Gambia. Drawing in over 25 years of experience, Susise identifies poor risk management as a pressing challenge facing Gambia and Africa as a whole. All right, moving further, as the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu returns to its normalcy after being battered by the cyclone Michong, the state's schools have reopened today after remaining closed for a week. Tamil Nadu Chief Secretary announced last Friday that the schools and colleges will open this week. For the last 2 days, efforts were made to clear any water stagnation in school and college premises. The campuses were cleaned and the functioning of sanitary facilities were ensured. All right, we'll go across to Chennai, where DD India's Anbarsan is joining us live. Anbarsan, a sigh of relief that schools have reopened nearly after a week, and there must have been a lot of challenges, and many schools and colleges were being used as relief centers. The last 1 week we saw. Hopefully, normal life will start today.
Yeah, actually, after the cyclone hits in various parts of Chennai and other neighboring districts, the school premises, which are heavily waterlogged, and so the government has also informed the school department to clear the water and secure the places in school premises. So the government, Tamil Nadu government, given a 1.9 crore to all other 4 districts to safeguard the places. And the school department is finally done last 3 days, and now the schools are after opened nearly 1 week. And schools are, actually students are very happy to come back to schools, and mostly the schools, the department and the principal and the school teachers are very much in caution about the safety of the students. So we are focused about that. And also the central team, which is formed by the Union government and is coming today and tomorrow to visit the cyclone affected areas and to estimate the cyclone affected cost and to provide a report to the Union government. And around it will be given in 2 days. So after that, the Chief Secretary Shivdas Meena also informed that the government is all ready to provide all the facilities to the central team to visit everywhere. And the Shivdas Meena also mentioned that the government is fully ready to start the schools, and that's why the fully empowered the team.
Anbarsan, also this was announced on Friday that schools will be reopened from Monday. Tell us the efforts that were made in the last 2-3 days to make sure that the schools reopen on Monday. There is no water stagnation, safety measures like you mentioned, and the campuses are cleaned properly with all the facilities available for the students.
Actually, the cyclone hit districts in neighboring districts of the Tiruvallur, Kanchipuram, Chengalpattu, and in Chennai, the major schools and the premises, mostly the waters are stagnant there. So the state government is more efficiently looking into that. So what they inform to the school and the administration is, if there is a water stagnation in school, should not be invited, and don't put a pressure on students and parents to come and attend the classes. Once everything is clear and safeguarded for the calamities, any buildings safety is at rest, please make sure that schools are safe. Then only you call, inform the parents to send their students to their children to the schools.
All right, Anbarsan, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the latest from Chennai. Moving further, let's take a look at other stories making news today. A 5-judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court of India will pronounce its verdict on a batch of petitions challenging the abrogation of Article 370 and the reorganization of the state into union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The apex court reserved the judgment on September 5th after a 16-day argument session. The central government said that abrogation of Article 370 was temporary and it aligned with the legal framework. Rail service have resumed between India's Kasra to Agatpuri after completion of restoration work on the down line. A total of 7 coaches of goods train derailed near Kasra railway station in Maharashtra on Sunday. The derailment resulted in the routes of 20 express trains being diverted. No one was reported injured. All right, we'll slip into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News are Ukraine's air defense system destroy 8 Russia-launched missiles over Kiev. Tensions continue to simmer in South China Sea amid tensions with Philippines accusing China of aggressive actions against its vessels and personnel. In Australia, to tighten visa rules for the international students. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. Amid tensions with Beijing in South China Sea, the Philippines has summoned China's ambassador to Manila over sea confrontations. The move comes as Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. accused China of aggressive actions against his vessels and personnel over the weekend in South China Sea. Marcos said the presence of Chinese Coast Guard vessels and maritime militia in his country's waters is illegal, and their dangerous actions against Filipinos is an outright and blatant violation of international law. He added that such moves only further steel Philippines' determination to defend and protect its nation's sovereign rights and jurisdiction in the West Philippine Sea. Meanwhile, the United States has called out China for its action in disputed South China Sea, saying it is undermining regional stability. In a statement shared by the U.S. Embassy in Manila on Monday, the U.S. also reiterated its support for its ally. The United States also urged Beijing to stop its dangerous and destabilizing conduct in the South China Sea. And to talk more on this, DD India's Patrick Falk joins us live from Singapore. Good morning, Patrick. Philippines has summoned Chinese envoy over sea confrontations, and U.S. calls on Beijing to refrain. Fill us in with more details.
Yeah, well, the decision by the Philippines to summon the Chinese ambassador, and that's not the only action they've taken. They've also issued a formal diplomatic complaint as well, follows not just one incident over the weekend, but 2. In addition to the collision that took place close to the second Thomas Shore, we understand there was also another incident close to the Scarborough Shoal, in which another Chinese vessel fired a water cannon at a Philippine ship. So not just one incident, but 2 here. And as we spoke about earlier as well, we have seen video that was posted by a spokesperson for the Philippine Coast Guard of the incident near the near Second Thomas Shoal, which does seem to indicate that it was the Chinese side taking aggressive action. We could see clearly the Chinese Coast Guard firing water cannon at a Philippine Kalayaan resupply vessel. And it appears that it's the Chinese side that is approaching the Philippine vessel rather than the other way round. The Philippines was also supported by several other countries which condemned the Chinese actions, countries including Japan and Australia weighed in as well to accuse the Chinese of taking unprovoked and aggressive actions against the Philippines and undermining stability, as the US has as well. So it seems now that the issue has escalated to a diplomatic level, and it follows, as we know, President Xi Jinping calling on the Chinese military to step up enforcement, maritime enforcement in the South China Sea.
Patrick, also for the benefit of our viewers, tell us what really happened. And reports also say a Christmas convoy had to be cut short because of the latest incident.
Yeah, well, look, the video certainly isn't conclusive, but, you know, when you've got two separate incidents where the Chinese are firing water cannon at the Philippine side, it does sort of build up a picture of, you know, who is provoking the situation, if you like. As we know, there has been an increase in Chinese activity in the South China Sea. The Philippines has been trying to illustrate to the world some of what it describes as aggressive Chinese actions in its territorial disputes to kind of, you know, give people a clear indication of what is happening exactly in these waters. You know, the Chinese side has accused the Philippines of entering its waters adjacent to the Ren-ai Reef. That's what China refers to as the Second Thomas Shoal, and that it was taking action to enforce maritime law, and it accused the Philippine side of provoking the Chinese. But the Philippines also says that, you know, this was an unprovoked act, and that you know, it damaged the Kalayaan ship's engine as well in the process of this collision. As you mentioned, there was this other incident as well involving a convoy that was organized by a Philippine advocacy group which wanted to send out various Christmas figurines and nativity figurines to fishermen and frontliners over the weekend. That had to be cancelled after the captain of the ship suggested that there was a dangerous situation and that they really shouldn't go ahead. We understand that, in fact, the convoy was shadowed by 4 Chinese vessels, including 2 Chinese Navy ships, a Chinese Coast Guard, as well as a Chinese cargo vessel as well. So that turned back. But, you know, part of the reason why it was going out there, in a sense, was, again, to demonstrate what sort of Chinese actions were taking place. A spokesperson for the group said that the Philippines wouldn't be bullied by the Chinese actions.
All right, Patrick, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the latest from Singapore. Well, updates now on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that dozens of Hamas fighters had surrendered, encouraging more of them to do so. Listen in.
In the past few days, dozens of Hamas terrorists have surrendered to our forces. They are laying down their weapons and turning themselves into our heroic soldiers. This will take time. The war is still ongoing, but it is the beginning of the end of Hamas. I say to the Hamas terrorists, it's over. Don't die for sin war. Surrender now.
And this comes as Israel moves forward with its ground operations in Gaza. Israeli tanks have pushed their way to the heart of Khan Yunis on Sunday. Israeli leaders have further claimed that dozens of Hamas fighters had surrendered, encouraging more of them to do so. Residents of Khan Yunis have also said that tanks had reached the main north-south road through the city after intense combat through the night. Moreover, European Union foreign ministers will gather for a meeting in Brussels on Monday, where EU will consider possible next steps in response to the Middle East crisis, including a crackdown on Hamas finances. Meanwhile, as unrest continues in the Middle East, the Israeli Defense Forces, or the IDF, accuse Hezbollah of launching several rockets towards Israel on Saturday night, including from a point just 20 meters away from a United Nations interim force in Lebanon, or UNIFIL, compound in southern Lebanon. In a post on the X on Sunday evening, the IDF said that several rocket launches have been made from the area towards Israel in recent days. By continuing to fire at Israel from near a UN compound, Hezbollah endangers the lives of UNIFIL personnel and continues to systematically violate UNSC Resolution 1701, the IDF said. The UNIFIL head of mission and force commander Aroldo Lazaro has been notified of the incident, the IDF's ex-post said. Now, the Israeli government has approved the outline for Tekuma Authority plan on Sunday. Tekuma region, that is situated adjacent to the Gaza Strip, was established at the beginning of Israeli-Palestine conflict in an effort to rebuild and develop communities in the region. The 5-year framework constitutes an infrastructure and broad budgetary up to $4.8 billion that will lead to the most optimal rehabilitation of the area. With the approval of the framework, the authority will formulate a detailed roof plan that will be published in 100 days for rehabilitating and developing the region. Now, Israeli climate change activists showed their support towards the hostages in Gaza and their families in Tel Aviv on Sunday. About 100 people held yellow umbrellas and formed the outline of the sun in the middle of the hostages plaza. They also held a banner that read, "Bring our sunshine back." Now, US President Joe Biden is set to meet Ukrainian President Zelensky in Washington on Tuesday. The White House stated the visit will emphasize the US's unwavering support for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Congress is deadlocked on providing $61 billion in military aid to Kiev. DD India correspondent Ira Spitzer reports.
Volodymyr Zelensky will have his work cut out for him when he visits Washington this week. And the problem for Ukraine's president is not getting U.S. President Joe Biden on board to continue funding Ukraine's war effort. President Biden has been sounding the alarm for weeks and months about the urgency to continue to release funds to help Ukraine repel the Russian invasion there. The problem for Volodymyr Zelensky is with Joe Biden's Republican opponents in the U.S. Congress. And what those Republicans have sought to do here is to tie releasing this $60 billion of military aid to Ukraine, to tie the release of those funds to some changes that they would like to see with stricter border policies and controls along the southern border. So they have so far refused to allow that funding to go through unless Democrats agree to some changes, which Democrats have so far been reluctant to do. So that is what has caused this impasse. But the bigger problem, perhaps, for Volodymyr Zelensky and the Ukrainian government is that many Republicans in Congress, or at least a number of influential Republicans there, have started to grow a bit tired of funding the war effort. Now, this is not to say that they will refuse to pass this measure indefinitely, but there have been concerns about the pace of progress with Ukraine's counteroffensive that appears to have stalled largely towards the end of the year. There are concerns about how urgently these funds are needed, and some have rejected the appeal by Joe Biden and others in his cabinet that the war effort is on the verge of failing or collapsing if they don't get these funds immediately. Some Republicans have pushed back against that narrative. So there definitely are significant problems in Congress right now with releasing those funds, and that is going to be the backdrop when Volodymyr Zelensky comes to the United States this week. Ira Spitzer reporting in San Francisco for DD India.
And in the latest update, Russia said on Sunday that its forces intercepted Ukrainian rockets, while Ukraine claimed its armed forces hit multiple Russian targets, including an ammunition depot. Russia launched an overnight air assault on Kiev with debris from the shot-down weapons that fell onto several districts, injuring at least 2 people and damaging a residential building, while Ukrainian forces say they have continued to carry out strikes against Russian troops on the left bank of the Dnipro River. It claimed that the Ukrainian army's missile units carried out strikes on many Russian targets, including a bunker and personnel and equipment positions. Abnormal freezing temperatures hit the Middle Urals by Sunday, bringing temperatures down to -50 degrees Celsius in some parts of the region. Forecasters warned of a decrease in average daily temperatures below the climate norm by up to 17 degrees, with chances of temperature sliding even more and skyrocketing taxi prices. Residents found this weather just to their liking. All right, time now for another short break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. Record low voter turnout of 27.5% witnessed in Hong Kong's Patriots Only district election held amid tight security. And polls continue in Egypt to elect the new president. Current President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi emerges as current favorite for his role in uprooting terrorism in North Sinai. And Javier Milei is sworn in as Argentina's president after a resounding election victory fueled by fury over the country's economic crisis.
That never stops, where information shapes our reality. One app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of what we have done so far. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch Viksit Bharat at 2047 Voice of Youth today. Benjamin Netanyahu calls on Hamas terrorists to surrender now as Israeli tanks reach center of Khan Yunis. EU considers crackdown on Hamas finances. Philippines summons China's ambassador as it calls aggressive actions in South China Sea a serious escalation. US calls on Beijing to refrain. And India's Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur to inaugurate first ever Khelo India Para Games in New Delhi. Hong Kong's Patriots Only district election held amid tight security witnessed a record low voter turnout of 27.5%, lesser than the 35.8% turnout of 1999, even though the polling time was extended by 90 minutes till midnight. Also, many voters expressed disdain, calling it an undemocratic poll since it barred opposition Democrats and Liberals from participating. The last election 4 years ago had seen a record 71% turnout, bringing about a landslide victory for the Democrats, while this time directly elected seats were slashed by nearly 80%, and all candidates were required to undergo national security background checks and secure nominations from 2 government committees, and most failed to meet those thresholds. District election in Hong Kong, which only allowed patriots only to run for office, saw a record low voter turnout. This comes after Beijing implemented a national security law and overhauled the electoral system to exclude opposition members. DD India's correspondent from Singapore, Andrew Wood, reports for more.
First patriots-only elections, so that the people who are taking part in the election are basically pro-Beijing and pro-Hong Kong government. So it doesn't really matter who wins. Some Hong Kong dissidents who have fled abroad have said, basically that they don't think that this election was a proper democratic election. It's certainly very different from what was envisaged in 1997, when Britain handed over its last colony, major colony, to China, and Beijing had promised to preserve democracy and even extend it by having direct elections for Hong Kong's leader, the chief executive. That hasn't happened. There are far fewer seats than there were. Out of the district councils now, there's about 660 seats in total, but only 88 of them are involved in this election, are elected in this election. The rest are appointed. Even if every seat was won by the least pro-Beijing party, it wouldn't make any difference really to how the district councils are won. And that's a pretty deliberate design by the government to try to make it as difficult as possible, impossible even, for anybody who opposes the government to be elected.
Now, Javier Milei, a renowned libertarian economist, sworn in as the president of Argentina on Sunday. Milei registered a landslide victory following people's fury over the country's economic crisis. "I swear to God and country to carry out with loyalty and patriotism the position of president of the Argentine nation," Milei pledged before taking over the president's office. Outgoing President Alberto Fernandez placed the presidential sash over Javier Milei's shoulders with a gentle handshake. In his first speech after the swearing-in ceremony, Milei said the road to rebuilding the country has begun and his predecessors had left the country without funds and on a path to hyperinflation. And President Javier Milei welcomed leaders from Latin America and the world at the Casa Rosada, Argentina's government house, after being sworn in as president. Javier Milei met Ukrainian president with the new Argentine leader, gifting Zelensky a menorah. The trip was Zelensky's first official visit to Latin America during his presidency. The diverse gathering of world leaders at the event also included Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban and Chile's leftist leader Gabriel Boric, among others. And polls begin on the second day for the Egyptian presidential election in a vote where former army chief and current president Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is poised to secure 6 more years in power. Various voters said they would choose Sisi for his role in uprooting terrorism in North Sinai. The election comes as the country grapples with an economic crisis and a war on its border with Gaza. Voting, which runs from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. IST, is spread over 3 days, with results due to be announced on December 18th. Critics see the election as a sham after a decade-long crackdown on dissent. The government's media body has called it a step towards political pluralism. And Republican presidential hopeful Nikki Haley campaigned in Iowa, where she pushed for term limits, criticized party frontrunner Donald Trump, and touted her own polling numbers. During a rally in Waukee, the former South Carolina governor and former UN ambassador said the United States will not survive the chaos that follows former President Trump. Alluding to Trump and US President Joe Biden, Haley told her audience that it is time for term limits and mental competency tests for American officials. She also said that both Republicans and Democrats are to blame for the country's economic hardship.
The things that we need are so much.
A US F-16 fighter jet crashed in South Korea on Monday while on a training flight, and the pilot has ejected. Yonhap news agency reported citing a military source, adding that the crash was near the US Air Force base in Gunsan. In Italy, at least 17 people were reported injured in the aftermath of collision between 2 trains on Sunday night, according to the local media. Both trains were travelling between Faenza and Forel on the Bologna-Rimini railway line when the collision happened. Rail traffic was suspended as rescue teams concluded their operations. Now, West Africa's regional bloc Economic Community of West African States set up a committee of 3 leaders to negotiate with Niger's military junta on a transition to democratic rule and to consider easing sanctions. At a summit in Abuja, ECOWAS decided to set up a committee of leaders from Togo, Sierra Leone and Benin to engage the Niger junta in a short transition roadmap and restoration of constitutional order. ECOWAS said the authority will gradually ease sanctions imposed on Niger based on the outcomes of the engagement with the Niger junta. Niger in July became the latest ECOWAS member to undergo a coup. A 2-person death and 7 injured resulted from an attack on the International Committee of the Red Cross convoy in Khartoum. The attack, labelled as deliberate by the ICRC, took place during a planned evacuation of civilians. Different parties, including the Sudan's army and the paramilitary rapid support forces, have given conflicting reports of the incident. The army said the convoy breached an agreement, while the RSF accused the army of the attack. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said he would take steps to restore and prevent delays in national politics amid a fundraising scandal. He added that he is aware of the seriousness of the situation. Kishida declined to confirm a media report that said he was set to replace 4 ministers in his cabinet. Allegations over unreported funds have posed the biggest political challenge to the ruling Liberal Democratic Party since 2012, rattling the foundation of the current administration. A former Japanese soldier who accused her colleagues of sexually assaulting her hopes the defendants are found guilty in the court ruling on Tuesday. The Fukushima District Court is set to hand down its verdict on Tuesday in the trial of 3 former SDF members accused of sexually assaulting Rina Gonoi, a former member of Japan's Ground Self-Defense Force. The accused have denied the allegations. Gonoi drew international attention for going public with her allegations in a country where speaking out against sexual violence has remained a taboo. Gonoi had joined the SDF in 2020. She left after 2 years due to the alleged assault and harassment that she suffered. Around 300 to 400 Rohingya refugees, including many women and children, landed on beaches in Indonesia's northeastern Aceh province. After spending weeks at sea, the latest in a series of arrivals mainly originating from camps in Bangladesh. The latest arrivals add to a recent surge of Myanmar's Muslim minority reaching Indonesia amid a social media backlash and pushback from locals in Aceh. Before counting Sunday's new arrivals, the UN Refugee Agency estimated that 1,200 Rohingya have landed in Indonesia since November. Indonesian President Joko Widodo said in a statement that he suspects human trafficking is behind the recent escalation in boat arrivals and has promised to work with international organizations to handle the issue. Iran began the trial of a European Union employee of Swedish nationality charged with spying for Israel on Sunday, along with the charge of corruption on earth, which is a capital offense under Iran's Islamic laws. Johan Floderus was detained in April 2022 while on holiday in Iran. The Iranian judiciary's Mizan news agency mentioned that Floderus' trial had begun and that he was indicted based on corruption on earth, widespread activities against national security, had wide intelligence cooperation with the Zionist regime, a reference to Israel. Now in Tennessee, emergency crews work to clean and restore power to the worst affected areas of a severe storm and tornado that killed 6 people and caused extensive damage over the weekend. Drone images show houses with their roofs torn off and overturned trucks. A shelter has been opened to provide temporary aid for those displaced by the storms. Shelters have also been set up in Nashville and its surrounding areas. The authorities said that 13 people were transported to local hospitals in stable condition. Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A fire broke out at Elkem Silicon plant in Salten in Norway, injuring 4 employees who were taken to hospital but were not serious. Emergency services were mobilized and the fire was brought under control. Elkem is Norway's silicon materials supplier. Australia plans to tighten visa rules for international students and low-skilled workers as the government looks to overhaul what it said was a broken migration system. The decision comes after net immigration peaked at a record 510,000 in 2022-2023. The new policies will also end settings that allowed students to prolong their stay in Australia. A large whale joined swimmers on a beach in Perth, Australia. The video captured by eyewitness showed the mammal swimming in shallow waters close to the people. Another drone video captured the moment when a dozen swimmers at Port Pitt swam up to the aquatic mammal and touched it. Members of the Jewish community in Paris celebrated the 4th day of Hanukkah near the Eiffel Tower on Sunday. The event was organized by Lubavitch Group. A giant menorah was lit up and Jewish musicians performed at the Champs de Mars Park. France is home to Europe's largest Jewish and Muslim communities. Time now for another short break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. Asian markets are buoyant on positive global sentiments. Sensex breaches the 70,000 mark for the first time. In West India, set to host the 27th World Investment Conference in New Delhi, starting today. Indian spinners shine in consolation win over England in third and final match of Women's T20 International Series. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Stocks in the Asian markets gained in early trading as investors are gearing up for an eventful week. India Sensex breached the 70,000 mark for the first time, reaching a high of 70,048 around 9:35 a.m. IST on Monday. The Sensex scaled new heights after the Reserve Bank of India held rates steady in its latest policy review. Positive foreign inflow trends, cooling crude prices, and ruling BJP's recent state election wins that have been read as a sign of political stability by market participants. The Nifty also breached the 21,000 mark at 9:26, was up 38 points to trade at 21,007 levels. Japanese benchmark indexes jumped at least 1% and key Korean shares were also up. Futures contracts for US shares were little changed after Wall Street rose Friday to notch a 6th straight weekly gain. As the markets appeared buoyant, traders are looking forward to the release of key US inflation data and Federal Reserve's final call on rates expected later this week. The US markets had set the tone on Friday after a surprise fall in the US unemployment rate, which triggered positive sentiments amidst optimism of soft landing of the economy and avoid recessionary trends. Moving on, Invest India is set to host the 27th World Investment Conference from December 11th to 14th at Yashobhoomi, New Delhi. under the aegis of the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. Invest India, along with the current president of the World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies. This year's conference is themed Empowering Investors, IPA's Pioneering Future Growth. Union Minister Piyush Goyal will deliver the keynote address on the role of trade and investment in the decade of action on 13th December and later chair a closed-room roundtable of private equity. The conference, an annual flagship event of WIPA, serves as a platform for global investment promotion and innovation stakeholders. Spanning over 4 days, the WIC is set to be the largest so far, with participation from more than 1,000 attendees, over 50 IPAs and various multilateral agencies. Invest India may also release white papers on key topics such as e-commerce, electronics, sustained textiles, and responsible AI. All right, you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sporting action. We'll start with Khelo India Para Games. The eagerly anticipated inaugural edition of Khelo India Para Games has kicked off in New Delhi. The event is set to witness a historic inauguration by Union Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur on December 11th, highlighting the government's commitment to promote para sports on a national scale.
Get ready for a game-changing moment in Indian sports. The inaugural edition of the Khelo India Para Games commenced with the exciting kickoff of badminton event at the IG Stadium. Union Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur will inaugurate the event on 11th of December at the Indira Gandhi Stadium, showcasing government's commitment to inclusivity in sports. Over 1,400 participants from across 32 states and union territories, including Services Sports Control Board, are expected to participate in the maiden Khelo India Para Games. Para-athletes will vie for honours in 7 disciplines, including para-athletics, para-shooting, para-archery, para-football, para-badminton, para-table tennis and para-weightlifting. The events will be held across 3 Sports Authority of India stadiums, the IG Stadium, shooting range in Tughlaqabad and the JLN Stadium. The Khelo India Para Games promise to be a game-changer for para-sports in India. The event is a major step towards making sports more inclusive and diverse.
Continuity of the Para Games and creating more development in the Para-Olympic sports remains our foremost agenda. The first ever Khelo India Para Games is another big step towards the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. The Khelo India scheme has remained a game changer for Indian sports. The Khelo India Games have played a pivotal role in the scheme. I wish all the participants of the Khelo India Para Games all the very best.
We are very happy that now my new India is becoming inclusive India. I thank the vision of Honorable Modi ji and the Sports Ministry, also the Sports Authority of India, for coming together and making this platform and making India inclusive when it comes to sports.
This initiative follows Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mention of the Khelo India Para Games at the International Olympic Committee's session in Mumbai just 2 months ago. The addition of para sports to the Khelo India series fills a gap that existed despite hosting 11 successful Khelo India Games since 2018.
ये एक सबसे बड़ा अपॉर्चुनिटी है पैरा एथलीटों के लिए कि उनको पैरा खेलो इंडिया गेम्स के जरिए उनको प्रमोट किया जा रहा है और इस साथ ही साथ जो यंगस्टर है उनको भी अच्छा मौका है अपने आप को रिप्रेजेंट करने का।
जो रूरल एरिया के खिलाड़ी हैं उनके लिए बहुत बेनिफिट रहेगा इसके लिए, और जो यंग खिलाड़ी हैं और आने वाले हमारे देश के लिए जो ये स्पोर्ट्स है खेलो इंडिया स्कीम्स है इसके लिए बहुत ही बेनिफिट रहेगा। और मैं मानता हूं कि जैसे एबल बॉडी को सपोर्ट मिल रहा है उसके साथ साथ पैरा स्पोर्ट्स को भी सपोर्ट मिल रहा है।
As the excitement builds for the opening ceremony on December 11th, the Khelo India Para Games are poised to make a lasting impact on Indian sports, embracing a new era of inclusivity and excellence. Narayan Singh Sport for DD India, Delhi.
All right, cricket now. India secured a 5-wicket consolation win over England in the third and final women's T20 international match in Mumbai. However, England won the series 2-1. A disciplined bowling performance led by Saika Ishaq and Shriyanka Patil, followed by crucial knocks from Smriti Mandhana and Jemima Rodrigues, ensured India's victory. India's victory was their first in last 5 matches They last beat England in 2022 by 8 wickets. And the first T20 international game between India and South Africa was abandoned due to heavy rains in Durban. The officials waited till the last as per the latest rules, but rains showed no indication of stopping, and finally the match had to be called off without even a toss. The Indian team is led by Suryakumar Yadav for the 3-match T20I series, while Aiden Makram has the South African team. The Indians come into the series on a high, having won 4-1 against the Aussies on their home soil. The second match in the series will take place on Tuesday. All right, Azan Awais century and 50s from Shahzab Khan and Saad Beg helped Pakistan chase down 260 runs with 8 wickets in hand in the Under-19 Asia Cup tournament in Dubai. Shahzab and Azan staged a 110-run stand for the second wicket to set up the chase, while an unbeaten stand of 125 runs between Captain Saad and the Centurion took the team past the finish line. Off-spinner Murugan Abhishek was the sole wicket taker for India. He took 2 wickets for 55 runs as the Pakistan batters were at ease. Pakistan continues to be on the top of the Group A points table with 2 wins in a row, while India suffered its first defeat in 2 games so far. Earlier put into bat, India lost opener Arshin Kulkarni inside the power play after a run of ball 24 and soon lost Rudra Patel cheaply. Adar Singh and Uday Saran added 93 for the 3rd wicket to keep the scoreboard ticking, but once India lost the former, they lost the game. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.